I literally knew one person in the US. And I said, listen, here's who I am. Here's what I've done. I would like to start a company in the US. Can I pitch you? We go on the phone call. We talk for like 10 minutes. It's like a word salad. And he's like, I have no idea what you just pitched me. I don't understand your business model, but you seem crazy enough where you're going to be successful. I will invest at a valuation without actually understanding the true sort of business idea. And I was like, okay. And he literally, the phone call ended. 5 minutes later, he sent me a text saying like, I'm in at valuation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TruthWorks. I'm Jessica Neal, your host, and I'm actually hosting by myself today. My co-host couldn't make it. So, hey, Pete. Hey, Jeff, wherever you are. Hope you're doing good. But I am very excited because I recently got introduced to this person who's on the show today, and I was just really impressed with him, really excited about what he's doing. But more than that, I was just so intrigued by his story. He has such an amazing story. You guys are going to love it. And you know I love digging into people's backgrounds and stories because that's how they get to where they are. That's, the imprints on their lives that make them into the people that they are today. Well, anyways, we're going to dig into all that. But I have today Dan Mishin, and he is the founder of Manifest OS. We're going to talk about what Manifest OS is in a minute. I'm very excited about what they're doing. It's going to be something I think a lot of listeners are going to get excited about too. But Dan, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
It's so good to be here. Doing great.
You too. I want to talk about Manifest, but before we get into Manifest, I want to go back in time because you and I talked about this when we met.
Yep.
And it was your story, and you are not a first-time founder. You have been an entrepreneur since you were little. And I want everybody to know that. So let's go back to where you grew up. Let's go back to how it all started. Tell us the story.
I mean, look, I don't know how unique this story is, but like I was born.
I think it's kind of unique.
I've met a guy who like dropped out of middle school and finished Carnegie Mellon computer science top of the class when he was 14. So every time I compare myself to that person, I'm like, okay, like maybe my story is not that unique. I was born in a beautiful town in south of Ukraine, the only warm part of Ukraine in Crimea, in a beautiful town that looks like the opposite of what people imagine Eastern Europe to be. It's got sunshine, it's got blue skies, it's got palm trees and beautiful sea. In a regular family, my mom was an English teacher, my father was in the military. Somehow there was some bug inside me, something inside my system wasn't wired correctly. So I was always just extremely adventurous and extremely curious about life. I started my first company at the age of 11, and what was supposed to be a small, short summer project ended up being a company that I was building until I was 23. I don't know, I don't want to go into like a monologue.
Well, I mean, let's tell people what the company was. I mean, so you're 11 years old, and then, you start this company. Why do you start the company? What's going on? And what is the company?
So my family was saving money for many, many years for my mom and I to go to Europe because we were in Ukraine. I've always dreamed of like going and visiting like Berlin. And my mom and I, we went on this trip to Berlin, took a 3-day train to get from Ukraine to Berlin, like lowest class, like 16 people in a room or whatever. And at it was an incredible trip. We like visited a bunch of places in Europe. And on the very last day in Berlin, right before we were supposed to board the train to go back to Ukraine, somebody stole my mom's wallet. And we had our tickets there and we had all our money there. And the only thing she had was a 20 euro bill in her purse, somewhere in like the back corners of her purse.
Yeah, like hidden. Yeah.
Hidden 20 euro bill. And that was the only money we had, and we had to sleep overnight until my father would send us money via Western Union. I don't know if you remember Western Union. That was like a thing.
I do, but maybe not everybody does. But that's how You used to get money to people.
You used to get money to
Yeah.
people, and it usually would take a day or two before the money
Yeah.
arrives. So we have 20 euros, we are in Berlin, we have no train tickets, and we have to wait a day until the money arrives. So we buy, my mom like rents the cheapest backpacker hostel in the outskirts of Berlin, like industrial area, people are graffiti everywhere, people are drinking like cheap beer. And we get to a backpacker hostel, my mom goes to sleep, and I am an 11-year-old kid sitting in a living room in a backpacker hostel, seeing sort of this like incredible vibe. 19, 20-year-olds, everyone is having fun, everyone is speaking the language that I don't understand, English. Everyone is just like, everyone is so happy. And I'm like, what is going on here? Why are they so happy? Like, why are they so smiley? And on my way back to Ukraine, I sort of made two decisions on that train ride. I remember it very clearly because I actually wrote it down. The first decision was I wanted to learn English because I wanted to understand what these people were talking about. And the second decision was I wanted to open a backpacker hostel so all these fun people are going to come and visit me. So we get back to Ukraine, my hometown, and I like walk up to my grandma who lives in a typical 2-bedroom apartment in the downtown of my hometown. And I'm like, hey, how about you actually move in with my parents? Like, we all want to spend more time with you. It's going to be amazing. Move in with my parents. And my grandma, after a month of whining, I convinced my grandma to move in with us. And I convinced my parents to let me open a backpacker hostel in her apartment. So, couple of $100 later, everything is painted. There are a bunch of bunk beds. I take photos on like the old camera, put it on booking.com, and just like have no idea what's gonna happen. 10 minutes later, I get like a notification that somebody just booked a dormitory bed in that hostel. And this person is from Australia. And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, I'm gonna get my first client. And what was supposed to be this like little summer project ended up being a company that I was building for 12 years. And over a period of time, it became the largest backpacker hostel chain in Eastern Europe, 13 countries, 3,500 clients staying every night. And it became like a massive passion for me. It became something that I genuinely loved. And I've met so many friends. I've learned English somewhat by doing this. And it's been an incredible thing that just, that just happened to me. I dropped out of middle school and I ended up just building this company until I was 23.
That is so amazing. And I'm sure you learned a lot. And I mean, your parents at the time had like, what were they saying to you? Like, what was the feedback they were giving you? Were they just amazed, or were they worried, or what was happening?
It's so interesting. Like my parents gave me such an incredible level of freedom growing up that I don't know if like I would be the same parent to my child today, given that level of freedom, which is like do whatever the hell you want to do. That was basically my mandate, and try not to get in trouble. That was kind of like what they said to me.
Like stay out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble. And I just they were supportive. They were giving me a lot of freedom. They really believed in me. When you make 3 years worth of rent in 3 months by operating a business, and the family is like, what is going on here? Just to put this in context, in the first months of me running that operation when I was 11, the revenue was say $10,000. And the average price of acquiring the same apartment, buying the actual underlying real estate, was $5,000. That's just to put this in context. Yeah. And my parents just couldn't believe it. I ended up building that company. It was a very volatile ride. It almost went bankrupt a bunch of times. I slept in my car for 6 months because I had no money to pay rent. And then we raised $100 million term sheet. After when I was 18. And this company was just like extreme
and so
volatility.
it got bought by another firm.
It ultimately got acquired by a private equity firm with Israeli roots, and it was. I think every company ran by a founder is a reflection of founder's personality, and I was a very volatile person. I was extremely unstable. I was like, I was crazy.
Right. Well, you were 11 starting a company.
And then over time you evolve and you become sort of a little bit more stable. And then the company that you're building is a reflection of like you becoming more stable and maybe more thoughtful and maybe more strategic.
Where you were like, okay, I gotta grow up a little bit. I gotta be more stable. Was there something that like pushed you to be more stable?
I don't know if there was like one moment, but I would say that like you meet mentors and you learn lessons. And after you get punched in the face after a certain number of times, you're like, actually, maybe I need to change it a little bit. So,
Right.
my way of learning was always just making a lot of mistakes and reflecting on a lot of mistakes. And I'm so jealous of people who can sit down, predict the future, sort of predict what's around the corner, and be very thoughtful. And that's not me.
You know those people? I don't know people. I
I've heard
mean,
they
you know,
exist.
I don't know. I mean, I've never met a fortune teller, but there's people that, are, they have a vision, right? And maybe they can see further than most, but, I don't think anybody really knows how or why or when it's going to happen and, what it's going to take. And, I love that falling down, is what pushed you to change because that's everything. It's learning from your mistakes, and it's when you have those real moments where you have to kind of come to the table and be like, what am I doing here? Right? That really pushes you to see things in a totally different way, right? And that's when you learn the most is when it's hard. You don't learn as much when it's good.
I think there are pros and cons to being like extremely thoughtful, and then there are pros and cons about not knowing what you don't know. And when you're
Yeah.
like 11, like you don't know anything. You're just like
No, you're 11.
doing things. And
Yeah.
when you're like, when I was 18, it was a real estate business, and like it was extremely high risk compared to even American venture. Because like when you're building a real estate company in Eastern Europe, like I would sign a 100-year lease on a piece of land with my personal guarantee on it at 18, and I was like, that's like and there's no bankruptcy instruments. The bankruptcy concept doesn't really work there, which means like if you fail, everything is on the line. Like there's no LLC that protects your personal liability from your company liability.
Right.
Everything is on the line.
Right.
And like if somebody would say today, hey Dan, you're 33 years old, go and sign a 100-year lease, I would be like, no way I would ever do this. This is too
Yeah.
crazy. And when I was
Yeah.
18, I was like, that's perfectly fine. That's like a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes not knowing is also a major advantage.
Absolutely. Well, you did mention that you might parent your child differently than how your parents parented you. In what way? I'm just curious.
Well, it's a very theoretical exercise because first I gotta get married, then I gotta make a child. So
Well,
ask
you
me.
don't have to do it in order.
Okay, that's true. But like, I mean, by default, it's gonna be different life circumstances. Like, I grew up in a place that was, you had 70 years of communism, and then communism collapses, and then like there are no laws, there are no regulations. It's absolute Wild West. There is no like even law enforcement stopped working really in like 1990s where I come from. Imagine my parents who were saving money for 40 years, they had sort of certain savings, and then one day the government makes those savings zero. Imagine that. It was one law, and like
Right.
everything that people have possessed was zero
Right.
overnight. And like
Crazy.
I come from a place with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility, and like the sort of it was a very like turbulent transition for where I come from,
Yeah.
and it makes a certain psychological imprint on you.
Of course.
The benefit of it is you can take more risk than a standard person because your risk tolerance is much higher. The downsides of it is probably is reflected in a personality, and it's a lot of sort of personal self-growth work to get a lot of those things out of your system, and it took me a couple of decades to get there, and I haven't gotten there all the way for sure.
Well, I don't think we want you to get there completely all the way because, it would prevent you maybe from doing the things that you're doing now, which let's get into to Manifesto S for a little bit because I'm very excited. So you have this whole journey from 11 to 23, and then, how do you then get to Manifest?
Well, it took me another two companies before I started Manifest, so I'm on my ride number 4. And after I sold the backpack hostel company, I was 280 pounds. I was extremely obese. I was really unhealthy. I was not working out. My standard diet was Snicker bars and Red Bull. That was
Oh,
literally my diet, like 80%
yeah.
of the time. Sounds amazing, right? And like, I was like, I'm never going to start companies again. I'm so done with this entrepreneurship thing. I'm going to have a normal life. I met a beautiful girl, and she was like, we were probably going to get married, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time in my life. It lasted 90 days. In 90 days, something again started, like a demon started breaking out of my
Right.
body.
You needed to do something.
I needed to do something. And I immediately started a company, sold it in 18 months. And then I was like, okay, what is the hardest thing that I can possibly do for myself? And for me, the ultimate playground, the most competitive place in the world, always felt like it's New York. And I remember how I had like a wall poster on my in my bedroom with like an Empire State Building, and I always imagined that this is like the most competitive playground for ambitious people from around the world.
Yeah.
So on one day's notice, packed all my stuff, sold everything that I had, jumped on an airplane with one phone number coming to the U.S. I literally knew one person in the U.S.
Who?
An angel investor who was a friend of a
That's
friend
the
who
only
met.
person you knew.
And that's the only person I knew. And he was a friend of a friend in San Francisco, building a company, doing angel investing. And I had one phone number, and I knew that I wanted to do something in prop tech because I understood prop tech so well, like real estate technology. So I basically texted him and I said, "Listen, here's who I am. Here's what I've done. I would like to start a company in the U.S. Can I pitch you?" We go on the phone call. We talk for like 10 minutes, and 10 minutes. I'm just going like it's a word salad of what
Right.
I'm telling him. And he's like, I have no idea what you just pitched me. I don't understand your business model, but you seem crazy enough where you're going to be successful. I will invest $100,000 at a $5 million valuation without actually understanding the true sort of business idea. And I
Okay.
was like, okay, well, and he literally, the phone call ended. 5 minutes later, he sent me a text saying like, I'm in at 100K at $5 million valuation. And I'm like, I love America. How does this world work? Um, it's crazy. Like it was
Right.
just nothing like I've ever seen before.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't happen to everybody, Dan.
I don't,
Just so you know.
I don't know. It felt very. It felt like U.S. and America generally gives you like chances and it gives you opportunity and
They
it
do. It
uplifts you.
does. Yeah.
And a lot of places don't
Yes,
lift
for
you.
sure.
So, and then I started a company what became June Homes, which was in real estate technology space. We scaled it to 250 employees, and at its peak, it was a $300 million business. And I ultimately exited it about 2 years ago. Two major hubs, one in Athens, Greece, one in New York, with employees equally spread between the two offices. And I'm building this company, and the kind of core business model of the company, at the end of the day, if I had to simplify it, it was like we were making more revenue for real estate owners by better optimizing their real estate. And I'm 31, and I hit this interesting stage of my career where, like, on paper, I'm building a very valuable company. It's growing really fast. It's high margin business. I have a great team. But for a period of like 6 months, I feel like there's lack of purpose in all of this. It's just like I'm like, how am I making the world a better place? Like, what am I actually doing that's meaningful? And and I realized that I'm not. And I realized that my heart is not there. And I realized that life is too short to work on problems that don't matter. And there is no amount of money that can change that for me. Because it was like I was at a different stage already. And then I started thinking about what is it that actually, where's my heart? What can I do that will sort of provide value to the world? I mean, it sounds cheesy, but like going to provide value in some shape or form that goes beyond selfish values.
Right. I don't think it sounds cheesy.
I say a lot of cheesy stuff, just heads up.
I think it's, I mean, I think that that's what most people want to do. They want to make the world better.
And I kind of like thought about what are some of the hardest problems that I've ever experienced myself that I would want to solve. And I've landed that the industry of law is this like incredible industry that is extremely important for the world because anybody who's dealing with legal matters at that point in time, that's top of mind for them. It's like, you know, when
Yes.
how many wishes does a healthy person have? How many wishes does a sick person have? Right?
Yeah.
Like it's overwhelming if somebody is going through a legal system, whether or not it's criminal law or it's litigation or it's immigration or it's divorce. That's what's top of mind for people. So the first bucket is it really matters, like it's an important problem.
Yeah.
The second bucket is it's actually really broken. Like if you look at how the legal system, if we take 50,000 feet view at the legal system, our legal system is failing us as citizens today. We have 10 times the number of lawyers per capita to most other countries in the world. We have 1.3 million lawyers, and yet we have 80% of Americans who cannot afford to hire a lawyer. 80%. That's real stats.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And I started going really deep into that rabbit hole to understand why is that actually the case? Why is our legal system so broken? And I realized that the main issue is that the way law firms operate today, traditionally, are extremely inefficient. So average lawyer spends 2/3 of their time doing non-legal work, and only 1/3 of their time is actually practicing law. Most of their time goes into business development, prospective client calls, running a business, accounting, insurance, and all of that stuff. It's almost like, imagine like if an airplane was flying from New York to San Francisco with only a third of seats sold on every flight. What would be the price per ticket? It would be astronomical. So the idea behind Manifest, the original inspiration behind Manifest was, what if we could separate the practice of law from everything that's non-legal in nature? Paralegals, marketing, business development, technology. And what if you could then apply AI on top of it to actually streamline every single manual, repetitive, paper-pushing work?
Right.
So the core concept of Manifest is we sort of power law firms with full stack solution. Every law firm follows the same guidelines, the same standards, the same SLAs. Every attorney uses exclusively Manifest software, and we build an entire software suite that replaces their email, that replaces their calendar, that replaces their Google Meet, that replaces their document drafting capabilities, that replace it's an ecosystem of software that's fully AI native, where like at every step of the way we analyzed every single action that a lawyer takes, and we applied technology to streamline it. We didn't eliminate legal judgment. Legal judgment rests with the lawyer, and the strategy rests with the lawyer. But all this like manual paperwork, that there's no value add there. You can streamline a lot of it with technology, and you can make it so much better. So that's the business that we've built. We started with immigration because that's the industry that was near and dear to my heart. I'm an immigrant. I went through the process. I hated it. It was expensive, time consuming.
I'm sure you did.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It was really bad. And the idea behind immigration was that it's also extremely formulaic. This industry is extremely antiquated in the sense that, people that are going through the immigration process sponsored by their companies have no idea where their cases stand. They cannot track them. They don't get notifications. There is no proactive updates that come to them. They have to chase their lawyer over email. It's very broken. And people that manage immigration, I mean, you've had that function under you for many
My
years,
career.
right?
Yeah.
Your entire career,
Yeah.
right? And if you look at people that actually manage immigration, on scale of 10 foreign nationals, probably manual is okay. On scale of 100, 200, 1,000, 10,000, it becomes unmanageable.
Yeah.
Because you have no reporting. You cannot track where your cases stand. You have, if you're multi-jurisdictional, multi-countries, oftentimes you have different levels of service by country. Even if it's one law firm, each law firm has a separate office that operates like its own kingdom.
Yeah.
And you may have good experience in Singapore and horrible experience in Australia. There's no unified reporting. It's basic stuff that wasn't fixed. So what Manifest does is we essentially provide one centralized unified platform for the entire global mobility industry. So we have in-house attorneys providing actual legal services, and all of attorneys around the world operate on the same system. They use the same software, they use the same reporting, all the data is centralized in the same way, and a global mobility manager can log in, go stay high level and see all of their data, like, hey, what's my foreign nationals population? What are the expiration dates? What's at risk of compliance? get flags and notifications anytime there is a compliance risk that could happen.
Yeah.
But they could stay high level, or they could drill down into a specific case and see, hey, why is my vice president of business development, who's getting sponsored for a visa in Singapore, why is their case delayed? And you can see exactly the activity log of exactly what the lawyer has completed, what are the next steps, and where does the case stand.
Which I love. And you and I were talking about this when we first met. And I felt very passionately about this when I was running things at Netflix, is that I wanted that experience for employees to be frictionless. I wanted it to be, an advantage, not only in the recruiting process, but in retaining employees. Like I wanted,
Right.
I wanted them to have a beautiful experience. And it was very hard to create that because, to your point, it is so antiquated, but also these law firms, that they're antiquated as well, right? They don't have great technology. They're trying to keep up with the caseload. You have empathy for them too, but at the same time, they're not always getting back there. And my thing with my team was like, I don't. It doesn't matter. We have to know, and we have to keep the employees informed at all times.
That's right.
Because this is such a sensitive thing, and it's nerve-wracking, right? Like you're anxious about it. And then there's all the things that are happening all the time with regulations changing, depending on who's in the administration and who's not. It's just very stressful. And if we can make it not stressful, and just to your point, it's not that complicated, right?
It's not.
It's really, you have to go step by step by step in the process, and there's things that you have to do for each step. And there may be things that, get denied or you have to get back to or whatever, but it is a process, right? And you just are going through it. And if you could make going through that process a little bit easier, a little bit more elegant, like that's a big advantage for a company.
Yeah, and exactly. And also if we take a step back and we're like, okay, what's the actual role of immigration? It's really two things. Like, how can I hire better people and how can I retain better people? That's it. Those are the two levers that this problem solves. Now, the reality is a lot of companies are spending all this money on incredible benefits, and a lot of those benefits are great. But if you ask a foreign national engineer in San Francisco, what is the benefit that's going to move the needle for them to join company A versus company B? It's often immigration. If your company is willing to sponsor their green card on day one, that's a win. You can win a candidate just based on that, even if everything else stays equal across the board. If you're taking a candidate and you're saying, hey, I will sponsor you for an EB1 green card, and here's a vendor that can help you prepare for this petition, and they're going to spend 6 months working with you, helping you draft your case, and helping you sort of obtain necessary evidence, maybe you should be going to conferences more. Maybe you should be going to do podcasts more. Maybe you should be, have a journalist write about you.
Right.
Maybe you should write your own blog. That's what a strategic legal partner can provide, that coaching. And if a company is willing to do this, this company can win candidates. And we're working today with some of the largest foundational models, some of the largest technology companies. And these guys are hiring the types of people that don't fit existing immigration boxes.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the business. How's it going? How's it scaling?
So we started the company 20 months ago. We've raised $60 million in venture capital from incredible investors.
Congrats.
Thank you. Kleiner Perkins, Menlo Ventures, first round capital, really good investors, really good partners. We've right now Manifest OS powers 100 attorneys. Right now the core focus has been US, and we've solved a lot of the sort of US immigration problems and just build a lot of technology on back end that makes it smooth. And now we're expanding into 20 countries in the next 2 quarters. So everything from UK, Singapore, Australia, India, Poland, Ireland, entire European Union. And the idea is that we're essentially building this unified software layer that makes lawyers more efficient so they can spend their time helping clients, provides visibility to HR managers and people officers to predict their spend, to have the reporting, to sort of track their foreign national cases with transparency. And it provides a much better foreign national experience because as an employee, I log in, I can see my entire case, I know exactly where it stands, I can message my lawyer. I know who the team is that's working on my legal case. I can schedule an appointment in one click with my attorney right there on the portal. I can see if I qualify for a green card at any point of time, for example, and how it aligns with my company's mobility policy. And then we build a strategy and advisory arm to the business that works with mobility leaders and HR leaders to actually take a step back and say, what should my immigration program look like in order to solve my business problems and achieve my business objectives? Yeah. And we hired former government officials from the USAS, U.S. Immigration Agency, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Labor, Department of State. We brought them together, and this group works with companies to help them build their sort of mobility programs.
I love it. Well, listen, people, check it out because I think it's going to be a different, better experience than the one that you're getting. I'm not going to name any of the firms' names because I don't want to put down the people that I've worked with, and they are great. They're great at what they do, but they are antiquated. So I think you're really solving a very hard problem and a problem that is incredibly important to make the world better. You and I were talking about earlier, like running an AI native company, and so I want to talk about that a little bit because it's different. Right. And so I want to know what you're learning, what you're doing, what you're seeing, because of course we have to talk about AI. We can't not talk about AI.
Yeah, every conversation ends at AI, no matter what.
No matter what.
It's interesting. And sort of thinking about people that are going to watch this, I'll just share some of my insights that might sort of sound cliche and maybe for a lot of people, this will be like, duh, but for me, this are the things that we learned in the last few months. Well, the benefit of starting a company today was just that the fact that we don't have legacy. We don't have legacy code. We don't have legacy organization. We don't have legacy bureaucracy. So we had it much easier than somebody who runs at a large organization today.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that what AI has changed, I think, is a couple of things. The first thing is the value of actually good hires. Went from being very important to being like mission critical. We started sort of hiring the types of profiles that we've never hired before.
Like what? Like what would be the difference?
I think that this is the moment when generalists win over specialists. Let me give you an example. I just hired literally yesterday a product manager that is a product manager, a product designer, and an engineer 3-in-1.
Oh, wow.
She's 25. She sort of like her professional career was kind of like matured at the age of AI. She's so AI native.
Yeah.
She's like all the way AI native.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to her, I was like, how do you choose a company where you're going to work? She said, I care about two things. I care about, she was interviewing me, of course, as any great candidate would, and not the other way around. And she said, I'm optimizing for how AI native this company is, how close to the cutting edge it is. Like, are you guys and she's going through her mental checkboxes. Do you have hardness? Do you have MCP? Do you have this 5 things? And then the second thing was the quality of people, right? So those are the 2 things that she was underwriting. But her profile is very out of the box. It's not a standard to have 3-in-1.
Right. No.
On our go-to-market team, instead of hiring, hey, we need a partnerships manager, show me a profile of people that were partnerships managers. No. Today you're hiring a strategy and operations generalist that comes from consulting background that basically can think in a much broader fashion and bring something else to the table. So hiring generalists has been a big thing for us. The second big thing for us was just the level of autonomy that happens. My team spends 80% of their time building AI agents and automating themselves out of their day-to-day jobs.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I walk around the office and I look at people's screens, and it's Claude, N8N, cursor. Those are the only things that I see on their screens.
That's crazy.
We had 3 support agents when the company was 10 times smaller. We had 3 support agents. Today we have 3 support agents when the company is 10 times larger.
Wow.
And I'm asking myself a question. And every metric is up to the right.
Yeah.
Response time is faster. Satisfaction is is higher. Every single metric is way better than it was. Yet the number of people stayed flat. And the reason is most of the time our support agents are using AI to basically streamline the sort of every manual repetitive workflow that they have.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess, and the last thing that I found to be quite interesting is the psychological safety that people would have around automating themselves out of the job. So initially I was like, hey, why is this person not adopting AI as fast as others? And I was looking at like this one specific individual, and they did not become AI native. They sort of like were kind of anti-AI inside Manifest. And I was talking to them and I took them out for dinner and I was like, look, everyone is doing this. Why are you not doing this? After going 10 layers deeper, I realized that the core reason is this person actually has a fear of like losing the job.
Right.
So I was like, that's interesting. You realize that that's actually the opposite of what's going to happen. If you automate yourself out of this job, I'll give you 15 other opportunities inside the company.
Right.
But it's still human nature.
Yeah.
So the way we solved this is we said any person that loses their job because of AI, we pay a 1 year severance.
That's nice.
And we introduced that.
Yeah.
And reality is like that changed a lot of sort of psychological dynamics.
Because it's not, I have security. I'm not going to lose my job. I'll still have a year to find something. Yeah, that's great. And kind of takes the fear off the table.
Correct. And I think maybe it should be even 3 years or 5 years. Like, how do you like create a level of psychological safety for people to actually go and sort of think as business owners around automating themselves?
Yeah.
I would love to see more of that.
Yeah.
And we're making first baby steps there.
I love that. What's your advice? Because you did have sort of this advantage of not having, legacy things, whether it's tech debt or other things in the company. You got to start fresh. You got to do this from the beginning. What's your advice to companies who don't have that?
I mean, change management is generally really hard, but I would kind of I would optimize for autonomy as much as possible. Like, there's this constant debate in different rooms where I'm in with other CEOs of like, hey, so how do you actually adopt AI? Do you have one engineer per team? Do you have a centralized sort of like project management office that then changes organizations?
Yeah.
Or do you sort of enable everyone to do it? I always lean towards maximum levels of autonomy and ownership, even if it feels duplicated. So for example, the way we set it up at Manifest is every team has a dedicated applied AI engineer assigned to them who understands all the business context. If it's marketing team, I want that applied AI engineer to be really deep into marketing team, understand exactly what they think about 24/7. And that person works full time just on marketing team. I like creating a lot of autonomy because I think that's what's necessary and important at the age of AI.
And so is this engineer, are they building the agents for the marketing team because they're getting to know their work, their task, the flow of things, and so then they can train the agent, build the agent to maybe make their lives not just a little bit, but a lot better? Is that the goal of that engineer?
I think in today's environment, training models is not necessary most of the time. So you could just orchestrate existing models that exist on the market and achieve better results because the velocity at which these models are evolving is so fast that there's no point in pre-training anymore. I don't see. It's very rare where there is an actual use case where you should do this. Like open evidence, maybe, because it's healthcare. Healthcare is like very unique, but like 99% of the time you don't have to do this. So this applied AI engineer is a person who is a Swiss Army knife. They can do 5 different things, 5 different jobs. They are a single person shop. Like they have a fully autonomous unit deployed into a specific part of the company, and that person can sort of run change within that company, within that department, within that organization on their own without any dependencies from the rest of the organization. That's kind of the mandate. Yeah. And we're doing this, and then we rotate these people sometimes because like somebody who was running applied AI for marketing team gets bored after 2 months because this person is 24, they're hungry, they want to learn, and they get bored very easily. It's also TikTok generation. Our attention span is this much. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
Be that
this
good or
person,
bad, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I find it hard to read long documents myself. So
Well, me too. I don't, it's hard, shorter is better.
shorter is better.
Yeah,
Give me like three words, 4 words,
yeah,
5 words,
yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I think for larger organizations, autonomy, independence of each unit, sort of maybe hire sort of more generalists as a framework. They're harder to get, but I find them to sort of be better adjusted to this age. And one thing is, there are going to be some people who are not going to adopt a change. It will happen, like especially people that were successful in the past. Like a lot of my CEO friends are talking about their CTOs
Oh,
not adjusting to this reality all the
uh-huh.
time.
Yeah,
And a CTO with 25, 30 years of experience who has achieved some level of success, who has a playbook that worked for 25 years, that person may not change because
yeah,
they're just used to doing things a certain way.
yeah,
And I would be honest with this person, and I would be honest with myself about whether or not this person is changing enough
yeah,
in this
yeah,
environment.
yeah. No, it's great advice, and I think I hear the same things too. And so I think, the other thing to the people who are holding on a little bit, to your point, maybe organizations should give more of that psychological safety to let people really truly jump in. But there's also people, even if that psychological safety is there, they're just not going to do it. They're too set in their ways.
That's right.
They love the playbook. They want the playbook to work. And for those people too, like try to throw out the playbook. Just try, because you really do have to learn this stuff if you're going to be part of this evolution. You got to dive in. And I mean, I love it. I don't know. I'm starting to learn how to code on Cursor. I'm like reading about it. I haven't like done it, but I want to build some stuff, you know?
Isn't it intellectually so stimulating and so
So
interesting?
stimulating.
And
Yes.
like, I don't know, I find it like every free minute that I have, I just want to learn more. I just want to get like, I'm so curious about this technology, just
Yeah.
trying things and building
Yeah.
things. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. And not to make me sound like a weirdo, but like I probably use chat, I don't know how many times a day. Like it's, and like it knows me so well now. It's a little awkward. I'm like, how do you know that? It's like I know you like to stay at really nice hotels, so like, why you should book this one, not that one? I'm like, oh god. Well, anyways, we're getting off track. We're running out of time, which is unfortunate. So I'm gonna ask two things of you, and the first thing is you've been a serial founder, and
AKA addictive founder. That's what they call it
yeah,
now.
yeah. Well, I think it's great. Keep doing it. Don't you took that 90 days off, but that keep doing it. But what's your advice to founders? Like now that you've done this, what now 4 times? This is your fourth, correct? What's your advice to founders?
I don't know how to give general advice. It's hyper specific, but what I would advise myself, every time I reflected on this question over the years, I ultimately landed to the same conclusion for myself, and my conclusion was always to take more risk. Because most of the risk is very perceived. Most of the risk is not real. Most of it is in our heads. And
Yeah,
especially to the types of people that, I mean, I see so many incredible people, perfect CV, perfect school, perfect job career. They made every right decision every step along the way. And they're paralyzed by being overthinkers and they're paralyzed
yeah,
by not taking enough risk.
yeah,
And I think that's the unlock. Unlock is to just get comfortable with the change and get comfortable with the fact that, like, you're going to take more risk. Like, you have to be responsible. I'm not talking about bad things. I'm
yeah,
talking about just sort of, allowing yourself to fail, allowing yourself to experiment.
To
That's what
get
I.
punched in the face,
Yeah, and then you get
as you
used to
said
it, and
earlier.
then
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
yeah, that was not
Yeah,
that hard of a punch. Come on, like I've
yeah,
had worse.
exactly. I love that advice. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is we always ask our guests to leave our listeners with a little bit of inspiration. So, what would you like to leave the listeners with today?
Like as a thought, like an inspirational
Yeah,
thought.
like some inspiration.
There's never been a more interesting time, in my opinion, to be doing what we do today. There's never
Yeah.
been a more interesting time. Any time of change is the most exciting, fascinating time. And if you embrace that change, and if you accept that change, and you just acknowledge the fact that nothing is constant in life, and life is constantly transforming, and you just like enjoy it, and you really find joy in the uncertainty, you can win in so many ways. You can have so much fun doing it. You could build generational businesses. You could change your organization in so many meaningful ways if you just embrace that change and go sort of with the flow a little bit and ride that wave a little bit and just like have fun doing it. It is so much fun to be doing what we do today. Like I wouldn't want to be anywhere else at any other place at any other time than today doing being especially in the tech industry. It's just fascinating. Like I'm drinking from the Kool-Aid. Sorry, I'm drinking from the fire hose all the time right now because it's
Well,
just so much fun.
well, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking from the fire hose, so I get it,
So much
friend.
drinking.
And yeah, I'm just drinking.
I'm just
And
drinking.
yeah, but I mean, it's true. I mean, it's so exciting and it's so fun, and it's a little bit terrifying all at the same time. But that's what makes it so interesting,
That's
right?
right.
And I feel privileged to be able to be on a journey and also on a journey with many different companies that are doing this. It's just fascinating. But you know what? I also am just very grateful that you and I got introduced. You are so impressive, and I'm just really excited to see what's going to happen in the next 5 years with your company and just with you in general. And I hope we are now friends. And
I hope so too. And
okay.
honestly, I've been such a huge fan of like TruthWorks, and I've been following you for a while, and it's a true honor and pleasure to be here.
Oh,
And like I appreciate what you do for your community. Like it is truly meaningful.
oh well, thank you. I hope so, and I know our listeners are going to love this. And now you're stuck with me, Dan.
I love
Okay.
that. I'm in.
All right. Good. All
All
right.
right.
Well, thank you again.